Hey everyone, April here, also known as T-Bones, and I have for you another warm-up figure study. This time we're going to be focusing on torsos, arms, and shoulders. A lot of times there's confusion on how the arm connects to the torso. I know I do often forget how it is actually connected and what it looks like. So I have to often practice this one. For instance, my shoulders often come out too round, and while they're a joint, you can use circles to tell where a joint is. The shoulders aren't actually round. They're more of like a long rectangular shape that's just been kind of curved off. Anyways, let's go over the specs just one more time. I am using Autodesk Sketchbook Pro, as I've done with pretty much everything recently. The pencil tool, and I also got these pictures once again off of Pinterest. These are full body ones, but I kind of just cut off the faces and legs because I wanted to focus only on the torsos. Now, when it comes to this, I have two males, one female. The first one, the male is standing kind of at a three-quarters view, his arms back behind him, and then he has his hand out in a sense with a sheet draped across his uh, leg area. This one, I did enjoy how open the pose was. He has great muscle definition, and the lighting's really nice and intense. Intense lighting makes this a whole lot easier because then you can really pick out values and shapes. The lines are a bit harder, so it's easier to kind of block in stuff. When it comes to this piece, I do have a couple of issues with how I did it. Mainly his shoulder closest to us, his left shoulder. I don't like how the shading turned out on that one. And the more, of course, you look at it, the more you go like, okay, well, if I had done this, or if I had a convex line instead of a concave line, it would have shown a roundness a little bit better. The shading on his side where the bright light meets, you have a really dark value, and then it fades into that reflected light. Reflected light is going to be light that has bounced off another object. In this case, they probably have some kind of lighting effect up, and it goes back onto the figure itself. This is what's going to keep your images from looking too flat. When you go into a piece and you're shading, shadows aren't just flat black. More often than not, the edge to where it meets with the light is going to be the darkest value, and then as it goes in, it's going to have a lighter value. Now, this of course doesn't count if you're in a pitch black room with one light on you. Naturally, you're going to have really harsh lines and shadows. But when you have ones like this, like in everyday situations, if you ever have a chance to look at your own shadow, you can see where the dark is versus where the light bounces back off of an object. And all objects will bounce this light back. And depending on the object, depends on the color, but we're not focusing on color right now, we're focusing on values, so don't want to confuse you guys with that one. Either way, my shading will have bounce back light on it. I did in the thumbnail turn up the levels to kind of create a lot of contrast going on there just to make a nice thumbnail going on. But in this one, as I'm painting, you're going to see that it's not quite as intense of a value difference on that one. I did enjoy how this one came out. I really have no complaints on this too much. Except for the arm that was pointing out towards away from himself. That one was weird. If you look at the image that I'm practicing from, you can kind of see where there's these weird bounce back lights and these weird shading lights. And it just in general, it was just really weird. But overall, I think it turned out great. Once again, I got some practicing with the neck and the collarbones and how they meet up. Whenever you're painting torsos or figures, I recommend highly muscular dudes because then you can really see how the underlying muscles working, like how it wraps around and where it meets and joins together and how it kind of connects everything together. The more muscle definition you have, the easier that is. I want to say the second one is the female that I'm working on. The female came out okay. I did have that pesky little hand right there covering her boobs, and unfortunately, I mean, I kind of just sketched it in really quick towards the end. But what really got me was the shoulder. I liked how it wasn't like out from the body. Most of the time when you're drawing shoulders, it's a pretty hard line. They're usually forward facing. But this one, the shoulder is curved around. So technically, I mean, the shoulder's there, but now I have to not I can't rely on just following the neck and the shoulder lines to create the shoulder. I have to now kind of create it in the middle of her form. That's why I chose that one to kind of work around that one. This one turned out pretty okay. It's a little bit messier on the shading than the other one. She had some weird collarbone stuff going on, and she was pretty. How can I say this? Like her overall picture itself, I probably could have turned up the levels on this one, but it was very mid-tone, kind of washed out. I didn't really have really a lot of darks to work with to kind of place where I'm at. But I think I was able to get around it on that one. Her shoulder came out pretty nice. I really do enjoy how it came out, and I'm getting a better feel of even if the information isn't there, I can look at it and be like, okay, I know what it has to be. I know how this muscle works. So this is if I bump the shading up, it's going to be like this, so on and so forth. So it turned out pretty okay. I do have to admit, female shoulders are really nice to paint. Like they're just smooth and they slope and they look really nice and just wonderful, really. But I also really enjoy drawing the pectoral muscles on men when they have that definition going on there because of just how those lines look. Like they look really nice. Like when I get into the third one of the guy doing kind of like the handstand, kickstand, or whatever it is, he has really nice defined pectoral muscles. And so did the first guy that I painted as well. You get that nice line that leads from where the shoulder connects with it, and you have that divot where the armpit is. It's just, I like painting that area. It's a lot of fun. I've always really enjoyed it. Honestly, when it comes to these videos on warm ups, it's literally you just look at photos and you try to copy them to the best of your ability without necessarily tracing them. So there's really not much to say on these. I mean, I could just talk my head off if I really, really wanted to. But I don't want to bore you guys too much with this. I'm trying to think of like tips and tricks I can give you during these videos so that way it's like you actually have a learning experience, not just listening to me chatter on and on and on as you watch me kind of like doodle in this sketchbook pro going on here. I guess what I can say is try not to go for typical poses when you're doing these. I find when the body's contorted and it's moved and it has like some kind of shape to it, the definition of certain muscles come out more, which is understandable. That's what the whole about showboating when it comes to even just weightlifters do. You know, those ones that it's all about show. Those guys are actually great, by the way, to use to understand muscles, is those ones who do those competitions. Because technically, they're not strongmen, because strongmen have a big gut because they have the muscle supporting the spine, which is necessary so you don't, hurt yourself when you're lifting actual weights. These guys are more focusing on the aesthetics of muscle, but the way they do it defines every set of muscle so perfectly to an over exaggerated form that you can actually see exactly how they connect together. So I actually recommend looking at those. They're really great. I often look at them if I'm kind of confused on how something should look or how it should connect together. So if you want to look up pictures of that and then paint those guys, I would recommend that quite highly too. Don't get too stuck in details. I sometimes find myself getting almost obsessed or really centered on one thing, and I really shouldn't. I should be able to quickly put it down and move on. I think my goal really as an artist is to be able to, those artists to where they create a stroke, like they just take a pencil and they make one stroke, or like in a painting, you watch someone paint and they just take a brush and they go boop, just a little stroke on the canvas, but it's perfect. The shape, the the size, everything about it, it was just a perfect stroke. Like they knew exactly what they were doing, where it needed to go, and how it needed to look. And they were able to do that without any fiddling whatsoever. And that's kind of where I want to get to as an artist. I would love to be able to be like that. Just be like, and done. Like, you just stroke a one brush across the paper and suddenly it's a masterpiece. That's where I want to go. You notice I fiddle with a lot of shapes. I'll push and pull a lot of these values trying to get the perfect shape. Like if we go back to the first one we did, I got the shape wrong on his reflective light on his shoulder. I made it too flat, to be honest. Sorry, that's my dog. Apparently there's someone doing something outside. But pretty much it's, if I had maybe changed those lines just a little bit, it would have looked a lot more rounded, a lot more like an actual shoulder. Because this one, it just really flattened out, unfortunately. I did have a lot of fun with the kickflip guy. He had a lot of wrinkles on his side, which, you know, human body, it wrinkles. When you're contorting, you have to keep that in mind. It's kind of like clothing, it will contort and it will change. So that's something to keep in mind. I really did enjoy how his body turned. And honestly, that one arm that's on the ground was so hard to try and get down. Like, it's foreshortening. And I'm usually okay with foreshortening, but just for some reason it looked really weird and it was throwing me off. And I was sitting there going like, thank God I'm not practicing hands right now because I don't even want to try that one. But it turned out pretty okay. It was hard because his head was covering most of his neck, and so I had to really kind of guesstimate where some of these lines were, where his collarbone was going to come out, where his chest was, and so on and so forth. Overall, though, I had a lot of fun doing these torsos. It really helps understanding the shoulder and pectoral muscles. I really do recommend it. I will have more warm-ups for you guys coming up soon, and I'm hoping to work on another big project video for you to see. If you guys want these videos to be longer or shorter, let me know. If you want me to talk less more, let me know as well. Make sure to follow me on all other social media sites. It's where I keep you updated on my artwork and where the final pieces are posted. And you can ask any questions that you need answered. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!